everybody. Welcome to Reckless Love, a conversation, a panel discussion about how our relationships impact our mental health. I am your host, Nanika Ansari, and I am the founder of the Hot Mama Spot, a space that is specifically curated for women in wellness, women-owned businesses to connect you with each other and to help you on your wellness journey. This evening's discussion is one that is very near and dear to my heart. Each, myself and all the panelists have our own reckless love story. And my story begins, 25 years ago in my own reckless love situation where my ex-husband was diagnosed as being bipolar schizophrenic. And that was a changing time in our marriage. We both were 18, 19. And then when the diagnosis came, we were 25, 26. Our life changed. We had a new baby, we got a diagnosis, and then we decided that we no longer wanted to be recklessly in love. And so my journey to discovering how that impacted my mental health brings us to this discussion today. Each panelist is going to introduce themselves, tell you about what they do, and if they are willing to, share their own reckless love story. Abria?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Abria. I am a family life specialist for a mental health agency in Cleveland, Ohio, where I service children and families. All of my kids have a mental health diagnosis. So throughout this journey, I've been learning a lot more about mental health, which has led me to the decision of going back to grad school to become a licensed therapist. So I'm excited. That representation is important for me. I'm also a co-founder of an organization called Be Beautiful Cleveland, where we work with young ladies and help promote self-esteem, inner beauty and authenticity. And I feel like I have more than one reckless love story. But I'm gonna say the first started when I was about 17. Even though, like, you know, we joked about how I'm like the baby in the room, I feel like I was doing things that a grown-up should have been doing. And I didn't really recognize in that moment in my life how that would affect my mental health because I didn't know anything about mental health. So this conversation is really important to me and close to home also.
All right, Ms. Nicole, you're up next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Huffman. Some of you may remember me with hair, but also being an entrepreneur for over 10 years, turning a fun-loving hobby into a lucrative business. We went from Inspirations of Love to Inspired by Love. But as of December 19th, 2022, being diagnosed with breast cancer, the decision had to be made to close the doors to the business. So I'm not currently working in that area, but just focused on my healing, focused on this next journey for my 2023 is all booked out. But I do have, being in a second marriage, I can say that I do have a reckless love story. But the love story that I have now has been just amazing. And I can't wait to share with you guys about it.
Thank you. All right, Miss Valencia Joy.
Okay, so I am Valencia. I am a divorced single mother of 2 grown men now. So that should tell you that I have had a reckless love situation at one point. I am what I like to call an authorpreneur. I'm your favorite sister, girlfriend, authoress. This is my first book. I got to plug it. And excuse me, I'm also the founder of Hey Sis, which is a women's empowerment organization. I like to create safe spaces, a lot like Nikki, where broken women can heal and healed women can help. So I love conversations like this when we can get together and share and inspire and encourage each other on this journey.
Amen, amen. All right, Miss Latoya, you are up next.
Well, good evening. So I hope you can hear me. I'm in a hotel room in Columbus. I'm traveling for work, but Latoya Smith, I am full-time HR professional for a financial institution. for 24 years, but I'm also an intimacy coach. So I have a business called Arrow's Heart Coaching, where I focus either on intimacy coaching, life coaching, or executive coaching. And so when you talk about reckless in love, you can also talk about untreated trauma, right? You talk about past hurts. You talk about, I lost my first love. We were 19 years old, he was killed. And so that untreated trauma and not having any type of support during that time, and depression, and didn't know I was depressed, leads you into making decisions throughout your lifetime because you have that untreated trauma. So we're going to talk about reckless in love and talk about our stories, and we're going to be healing and acting all crazy today on this Thursday. So it's all good, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, I want to thank everybody on the panel this evening. Each person was uniquely designed to sit in this room. I am a firm believer that whoever is supposed to be here will be here, and we're going to show up and show out. So the panelists have had we're given some questions to think about. And so we are going to discuss those questions this evening. So ladies, anyone can answer. How has sacrificing your mental health impacted your life? Because when you think about a reckless love situation, we're thinking about a time where we were so involved and so in love that you didn't think about you as another person. Like, I know for me personally, I was so committed to my vows. I was so committed to this is the way a marriage is supposed to go that I didn't even think of how I was sad or how I was depressed or how I was in a space of unhappiness until I looked in the mirror one day. I was like, girl, is this even you? So how has those type of situations impacted your mental health? And how did you recognize that it impacted your mental health? That's a two-part question. Go ahead, Andy.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I think sacrificing your mental health is sacrificing yourself. And the longer that you do it, the more you lose yourself. And if you lose yourself too much, you don't even remember who you are. And I think in the midst of my marriage, it was very toxic. It was filled with, infidelity and verbal abuse and all of that. I began to shrink. And it took my mother looking at me one day like, this is not you. And I kind of got offended because, like you, I was more so into my vows and what the church told me, and I got to keep my family together, et cetera, et cetera. And I put all this weight and guilt on myself, and I was the only one carrying it. And I began to sacrifice myself. But in the end, my mother was correct. It wasn't me. And it was a long journey of getting back to myself, of finding out who I was and choosing me and choosing my mental health over toxic situations just because of a vow that I probably never should have made in the first place.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
It
You
is.
have something you want to add, LaToya? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't have my hand up, but I would say that I would agree with Valencia in saying that, when you think about your relationships and you think about all the things that we were taught, and those limiting beliefs that hold us bound to staying stuck, and you cannot be in a healthy, whole relationship if you are not connected to yourself. And so I had to learn that later on in life, but it is critical and important to have an intimate relationship with self. And like Abria, you're in these relationships sometimes when you're much younger, when you should be playing with dolls and fairy tales, and you in real relationships, and you had no example of what a real relationship looked like. You have no real example of, I was taught old school, you got a piece of man, but he ain't put his hands on you, you just deal with it, right? I had ex-boyfriends cheating on me and calling my mama and telling me, please tell her to take me back. I'm just like, so, you're thinking about those things that you saw, you experienced, and what was taught to you. And then when you know what you know, baby, listen, you start to do things differently. And so healing of self is first, loving yourself unconditionally first, so that you can't attract the type of love that you want. So I'm gonna just pause right there.
That was
I'd
good.
also like to add, in my first marriage, there were issues, but I didn't realize how it affected my mental health until the marriage ended. And I'm sitting in this house like So now what? What do I like to do? What do I want to do? How do I heal? I got 2 little girls looking at me. So, you know, you got to snap out of it so you can take care of the kids. But just going from wife and mom to like, okay, now what? That's when I realized like you was kind of caught up. You was tied in, and you know, and like Valencia said, you know, what the church said, what your parents said, the older couples that have been married for 50, 60 years that have put up with everything. And, you know, here we are in our 30s, like, well, that'll never be me. You know, but then you find yourself in that situation. But then when it's over, it's like, so now what? Now I'm trying to figure out who I am. What did I just go through? How do I heal from it? Who do I talk to? And then that's when I realized, like, I can't do this again.
And I think that's the point, like, you can't do this again, but let me be completely and totally honest, because I've been in multiple reckless love situations. But what I think changed for me is like, I knew the lesson from the previous one. So it was like, if you get into this again, you know how to get out. But it's a matter of, like you said, loving yourself enough, one, to say, I deserve to get out. And then making that choice to do so. But what did it look like when you were going through it? For me, I am a busybody. I was volunteering for everything. I was never at home. I had the kids signed up for everything because I didn't want to deal with myself. And I just remember being at home by myself one day, like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what I like to eat. And I walked past the mirror and I saw myself and I was like, girl, you don't even know who you are. Like mentally, physically, you don't know who you are. What did it look like for you guys when you were in the midst of discovering like something is wrong?
Yeah.
Come on, Miss Bria.
So if I could paint the picture for y'all, I'm 26 right now. So when I was 17, and one thing that I recognize me being 26 today, when you go through trauma, childhood trauma, like they call it, that buzzword, when you go through that, and I learned that a defense, like coping mechanism, you put things to the back of your mind so you don't have to deal with it or focus on it. And I feel like what I've done over time is put it back so I don't have to focus on it. And then in the midst of going through it, you don't really realize that it's something that you need to be healed from. You don't really recognize it as a trauma, just something that, you know, you're going through in the moment, which is how that looked like for me. And I think the idea of being a secret is just like, I'm more than that. I know that I'm more than that, and this isn't right. And I think having that realization, I feel like God had a lot to do with that, you know, bringing me to some self-awareness to remove myself, had a lot to do with it. But it was just that self-awareness, and recognizing that I'm more and I deserve more and that I'm beautiful and I need to love myself enough to bring myself out of this situation.
Did anybody else want to contribute? I didn't move on.
I feel like it was a tug of war on my soul. On the one hand, it was autopilot, except for when I was dealing with my kids. Because with them I'm on, but with anything else, work, I was going back to school. Autopilot, a lot of depression, a lot of tears, a lot of journaling. But I also grew to know God in a much different way. And one of my biggest lessons was not allowing my prayers to box God in, because I'm asking God, fix this, fix this, fix this. And then when I'm getting the out, which is the fix, I'm not taking it, because no, fix it in my mind means he stopped cheating, he come home, our family is whole. You know, I'm boxing God in, when in actuality, he's telling me, I am fixing it. Come on, wake up, come on, let's go. So it took me a while to get that. But in the meantime, my relationship with him grew. I understood him better. And I really began to know him as God, my Father, more than just this entity that I had learned about, you know, in Sunday school.
Now, you brought up something really, because you mentioned your mother and part of the conversation. Were you any of you ever afraid to discuss your mental health with your family? Because sometimes like if we think about it, a few years ago, it's still taboo today to be like, I'm mentally drained, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I don't know how to get out. Did you guys feel like you had a safe space to discuss what you were going through in your reckless love situation, or were you afraid?
No.
Come on,
I think
Nicole.
for me, when we were in the space of not getting along and arguing, that's what you told your family. You know what I mean? And then it bit you in the butt, because now when you back in love, it's like, oh, didn't you just say he? Didn't you just say? And I think it was just more of, okay, Nicole, you can't say nothing, because when it's like that. I'm gonna share when it's bad, but in that space when it's good, everybody keeps spewing at you all the stuff that you went through. So I just never said anything. And then when you get alone and you by yourself, you're trying to figure it out on your own. How do I keep this together? How do I, help the marriage survive, keep the kids happy? We sitting down eating dinner together, and then you start hiding. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're not eating together, but nobody knows that. I'm not gonna tell anybody that. But kind of like out in public, you would think that those things were happening. So, but yeah, when you asked that question, I just realized, like, no, I didn't have a space to have those conversations.
Yeah. I definitely didn't have a space. I was in a relationship at the time with a 32-year-old when I was 17. That was a secret, so there was nobody, that I could talk to. And even the idea of it being a secret, I feel like was really manipulative. And me being 26 today, I understand how triggering that is for me because of that experience. But because it was a secret, there was nobody that I could talk to about it. I didn't want to really talk to anybody about it. And I think that was a lot of internal shame, maybe, and guilt. Now that I'm getting older and, understanding what healing looks like for me. But there was nobody, to talk to except maybe like the people that were in this inner community religiously, but there was nobody for me to talk to. And this was a lot of first experiences that I had, a lot of first feelings, never really knew you hear what people say when they say like, oh, I'm jealous of so-and-so, but this was also my first experience of being intimate with anybody. So a lot of those feelings I experienced for the first time, and being 17 and not talking to my mom, I didn't know how to handle those feelings, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to voice them. I didn't know how to put them into words, to be honest. So it's not until, I'm getting older and healing from that I'm able to recognize, what wasn't okay and how I deal with that now. But absolutely nobody to talk to. But I could have, if I wanted to be, I could have shared that, but 17-year-old me in the relationship that I was in, I wouldn't have. And that was to protect that person. And also, I think some guilt and, the perspective of other people of me, like I didn't want people to look at me a certain kind of way. I was really just focused on other people and people pleasing.
I'll just add to that. So my mother's gone. She's been gone 6 years. And this month is my birthday month. And normally I turn up because it's February, it's Black History Month, and I turn up the whole month. And I just turned 48 and things are hitting me differently now. So I've been doing inner work stuff for a long time. However, you get in your 40s and you lose your mother, who's your cheerleader, your validator. Things shift for you. Okay. And so the things that are evolving and coming up for me now, I can't run to her and call and tell her. My mother, love her dearly, the strongest woman I know. However, there are some things that I'm learning and experiencing that I want to talk to her about. So I have to do it in a different way, right? I want to talk to her about, because some things were this mental health thing, like I just realized I really have a personality disorder that tripped me out. This is how I found out I had it. I was talking to a girlfriend because I've been watching New Amsterdam. Damn show on Netflix, boy, messed me up. But anyway, it's a good show. However, the therapist on that show, he is phenomenal. His name is Iggy, but he helps people and he gets a little bit involved. And he helps and helps and helps. So his therapist said, you know, a little bit, you're a narcissist.
Mm.
I'm just like, how dare she call Iggy a narcissist? He helps people and this and that. And then I went to sleep that night. And I woke up and I'm like, wait a minute. I think that's me too. I think I got a little bit of the narcissism in me because I have been taught. Now, listen, this is why therapy is powerful. Now, I just got into therapy just maybe going on 3 years ago. And so much stuff is coming up, right? And that's why I wish I had my mother to be here to unfold some of this stuff. So if you still have your mother on this earth and you can talk to her, whether or not, you know, she may understand or not, this is good stuff, right? So I'm listening to this and I had my therapy session the next day. And I was just like, I think I have a little bit of narcissism. She was like, yeah, well, yeah, we've been working on that. I said, lady, you ain't said that to me. You ain't used some words to me. And so when she broke it down, she was like, I didn't say that word, but what have we been talking about? When you help people, because you are a rescuer, Latoya, when you help people with attachments. You want people to do it this way. You want people, and if they don't do it this way, that's a form of narcissism, Latoya. I said, I'll be damned. Oh, I forgot, sorry. I said,
You love Jesus, but you cuss a little. We get you, Latoya.
what in the world? And then I realized she's been teaching me. She was like, I'm not saying you can't help people, Toya. I get it. But you got to help people without attachments. You got to help people without expectations. So we've been working on that in the past few years, but we just didn't use that word. And I'm just like, oh my God, I never knew that. And then I was just like, oh my God, but this is what my mother taught me. She told me nothing belongs to me. And I have to help people because she was running away from herself. And then, y'all, she was validating me and you're beautiful, you're this and all of this because she didn't get it from her mother and she didn't get it from her daddy. So when my mother died and my biggest cheerleader left, I'm like, well, who gonna affirm me? So now I'm sitting up here lost, like, ain't nobody affirming me. My cheerleader is gone. And my God, I was just like, oh my God, she did it to my detriment. She didn't even know. So this is the stuff that I want to tell her. I'm promising, I'm doing my best not to get emotional because these lashes got to lash. I got a meeting in the morning. But anyway, and so I'm trying my best to understand. So all of this stuff is unfolding for me. So now I'm just like, I have 2 kids, an 11-year-old daughter going on 22 and a 14-year-old son. We both got hormonal issues going on. So anyway, so I said, I got to do this right. I'm choosing to do this right by my kids. I'm in therapy, and they know I'm in therapy too, so that my stuff is not their stuff, so that they're not pulling back layers of my stuff that I put on them, you know? So long story short, I'm learning that there are some things that I have been doing that I'm thought, you know, I'm doing good by people. I'm out here helping people. Yeah, but are you helping people? Are you helping because it gave me gratification and my ego is like, yeah, baby, I helped to do that. So doing things differently and I'm unlearning how to do it and to do it properly. So I know it's a long story short, but unfortunately I had to write this out. And the last thing I'll say is I did not see vulnerability in my house. And so I had to write my mother. I said, I guess I mail it 7 heaven and hell. I guess that's why I'm gonna send it to her. But anyway, but I'm writing her to say, I did not see my mother cry. My mother was the strongest single mom that I know, right? And it was till I was older and I saw her cry and she blamed it on diabetes. I'm like, Mom, you're broken. You got a broken heart. It's okay. But I'm learning to be vulnerable. I'm learning that strong is a bad word. I don't have to be strong. I don't have to be superwoman. It's okay to not be okay. And guess what? I am learning to be vulnerable and transparent. Listen, I'm talking to how many people are on this call who I don't even know, and y'all, and I am spilling my guts. You couldn't have paid me 2 years ago to do this. If you would have said, hey, Toya, how you doing? I'm good, boo. I ain't good. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm learning this and I'm teaching my kids it is okay. Vulnerable is the new sexy. Transparency is the new sexy. Somebody tell me they going to therapy. I'm moist. I know that was too much. But anyway, I'm just saying.
Yeah, she's really tame today because when we was in class, she was all the way live. But so you brought up some good points, and because we are all African American women on this panel, I have this question: has the stigma of being a strong Black woman hindered you from seeking the help that you need in order to recognize, like, hey, mentally I'm not okay, but I'm constantly being told I'm a strong Black woman, I'll figure it out? Has that hindered? Because I know for me, it did hinder me, because it's like I should be strong enough to handle this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, chest up, brother, I can do all of these things. And I was doing all of the things, but I was slowly on the inside, like falling apart. So by the time I was alone, I was in pieces and I wasn't functioning for myself. How has that impacted you guys? That comment, you got to be the strong Black woman.
It hits hard, and it's what you do. It's like, that's what they said. This is what I got to do. And then when you get in those situations where you need help, you don't want to ask for help. So then what do? You figure it out by any means necessary, no matter you're not, you know, and when I.
Oh, Nicole, you cut out. I'm gonna message her, y'all, so she probably talking still. But anybody else want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I was raised by like LaToya, a strong Black single mother. My grandmother she also helped raise me. She was a strong Black woman. And I don't even think they knew that they were strong. I think they just did what they had to do to help their families to survive. There wasn't a lot of complaining. There wasn't a lot of time out for themselves. Self-care was not, a buzzword for them. They didn't live my life, because I really, once I realized how broken I was and how torn I was, I went to counseling. I went to therapy. Now, I didn't tell them right away, just in case, until I was strong enough to stand 10 toes down and say, this is what I need. I need to go to counseling in order for my family to be whole, in order for my family to be well. This is what I need. But I didn't share it initially. I have no idea. I can't even remember what their reaction was, because by the time I shared it, I didn't care. But before then, I knew that their reaction probably would have stunted my growth, or had me feeling like they were looking at me like, we don't do that.
Something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Something
We don't do
wrong
that.
with you, child.
You're not supposed to. We're Jesus. Just pray about it. Just pray about it.
Just pray about it.
Yeah. And I do pray about it. I'm a believer. I
Mhm.
do pray about it, but I believe in
But prayer and therapy,
Yes, they go together. They go together.
That's just like say faith without works is dead. The
Absolutely.
work is you working with your therapist. You're gonna still pray about it, but you can't pray everything away. You need a good therapist who can say, yeah, baby, you tripping, but all will be well.
And I need a professional. I got to the point where I don't want to go talk to the pastor. If I'm in your church, I respect you as the pastor. And I respect that you have wisdom, but you didn't go to school for this. You can't help me with this. So I need a professional. So I really had to get my backbone in that area, but I'm glad that I did. And now I can talk to my mom and say, like, yeah, I'm back in therapy, or I need to go to therapy. And she's like, okay. Because I think my growth has helped her to grow, in her view of these sorts of things.
I agree with that for my mom. But I didn't really, y'all, I'm 26. So I didn't really get the, like, I'm not a single mom. I didn't really get that pressure. And I'm blessed to say that I've been in environments that have allowed me to be vulnerable, which is like, that's really a blessing. And I think that that's a really underrated blessing. I need to give more gratitude to that. But y'all, I'm a flower. I tell people all the time, like, I don't carry and I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think that it puts a lot of pressure on our women when they carry that, like, it doesn't allow room for you to feel. And that's heavy. That's a lot of heavy weight to carry. And I love my mom, but I feel like my mom is like that. And I think that learning to be vulnerable, I really do recognize that as a thing. But thankfully, ironically, I don't carry like, I have to have a wall up. Like, I'm very vulnerable. I think now it's called like soft girl era. I've been soft before that became a thing. Like, I like to express myself. If I feel like I need to cry, I want to let it out. I don't like to hold on to things. I don't like to feel uncomfortable. I like to let that out. And I love that about me. But I do think that term strong Black woman puts a lot of pressure on us. And I think we do carry a lot, but when we take that, I feel like we internalize it, and in turn it's like, oh, I had these kids, I can't let them see me cry, or I can't let them, see how hard it is. I have to hold it together at all times, but we're not always okay, and I think, yeah, go ahead.
I would encourage you to hold on to that. Because as life's, as you get older and things do happen. I think at one point we were all at some point a little soft, but life comes and throws so many monkey wrenches in it if you're not aware. That's what I was saying in the very beginning, how I lost myself. I didn't even know that that's the trajectory I was on of losing myself. I was just going through life.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I was hard and strong and angry, at my circumstances. So I would just encourage you. I think it's beautiful that you're vulnerable, and encourage you to hold on to that no matter what.
See,
And can I
go
say
ahead,
this?
Latoya, and then Latoya, I'm gonna let you go, then Nicole, and then I'll go. Go ahead, Latoya.
I just appreciate that you have Ms. Robinson on the call to represent the younger girls, because it is critical to hear from her and how she's feeling and what she's going through. Because honey, baby, when you get in your 40s, honey, it's gonna be a whole nother different story, depending on what your life looks like. But I want you to hold on to your confidence and everything, because sometimes you get in your 40s, you think you get more confident. Sometimes your confidence wane a little bit because of life. And when I was your age, I was Superwoman. I was Wonder Woman. I could do everything through leaps and bounds, and could nobody stop me. And at some point, when I got in my 40s, I got shaken a little bit, and so now I'm trying to get back to where I used to be, or I ain't got to go back there, but be different now that I know what I know. So, like Valencia said, hone in on that, on vulnerability, because we had to be hard. We're different generations, so we had to be hard. We had to be school smart, street smart, man smart, all that other stuff, all in one, right? And so it's different for you, and that's why we're learning from you, and we're just telling you, hone in on that and keep it, because what we don't want you to do is when you get up in age, second guessing, trying to figure it out and all those other things. But I've been with you since you was 17. I ain't going nowhere, girl. You're going to still be with me. You stuck.
Yes. I claim that.
All right, Ms. Nicole, welcome back into the room. You had something you wanted to add?
I was trying to find all right.
Hold on. Okay, I got you. You got it. Unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm back. I think I was just kind of talking about how we just figure it out. Whatever we had to be that strong Black woman. We had touch. We got it. We don't need it. And we see people moving in that way, so we do the same thing. And it's kind of like just an expectation, so to speak. You know what I mean? But whose expectation? And why does that have to be the expectation? But it's just, it's just the way that we move. And I also think that, you have to be in a relationship with somebody you can be transparent and vulnerable with. And when you don't have that, you hold everything inside. That was me. I held everything inside because I can't cry to you. I feel like, it won't be received. You know what I mean? So I keep it to myself. I own that myself. So we have to get up and get dressed and hit the ground running to make everything happen. But why? Why do we have to be that way?
So I will say this, because someone's like, oh, I've been soft. No, I was
It's
not in my soft girl season. I probably just entered in the last 6 months of my soft girl season. I was very hard. I was not a vulnerable person. You was not gonna get over nothing on me. It was my anxiety of knowing though that I had let somebody get over on me, that I wasn't gonna allow that to happen again. And so it was a matter of doing the work. And I really think, like, you guys, if you're an African-American woman, I'm gonna plug them real quick, interested in becoming a coach or going through a coaching program, ask LaToya and I. It was really becoming vulnerable with other women who have been through what I've been through and being honest with myself, like, girl, you is petty and anxious and worried and sad and mad at the world for what? What happened to you that you got that way? And it was really about doing the work, like really taking a look at myself in the mirror and being like, okay, you need to pull it together because you're going to be unhappy. And do you want to live an unhappy life? And I was like, no, I don't. But then I had to explore what happiness looked like for me, what made me happy, not doing all these things for other people. My sister told me, she said, you be the first person to volunteer for something. You don't even wait for the whole message to get out. You're like, I'll do it. Well, how can I help you? And it was a matter of me becoming selfish, because all that was covering up my anxiety. It was covering up my worry. It was covering up my sadness. Like I think I probably didn't cry for like 2 years. Y'all think I'm joking. It was hard for me to shed a tear at a funeral. I would be sad. But I just found like I couldn't, like the tears wouldn't come out. It's like, I'm not about to cry in front of these people so you could think I'm soft. I'm not soft. You're not gonna. And then I was in the shower one day and I was like, my nieces started this. You can cry in the shower. If you can't cry nowhere else, you can cry in the shower. Give yourself permission. And I cried. And I was like, girl, you probably cried for the old. And I cried sad tears, happy tears, anxious tears, because I had built it up for so long of just being this wall that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to love anybody or allow anybody to love me until I figured out what was going on with me. So that is how I started to seek help. And honestly, it probably started 24 years ago. I just didn't realize it because I used to take my ex-husband to therapy. And when he wouldn't use the tools, I would use the tools. So the man would be like, lift up your hands and release. And I would be like, he ain't doing it, but I could do it. And so even in my practice, like now I'm like, okay, lift up your hands, put your hand over your heart, breathe deep, because that gets me centered. And it's like, you're going to be okay. But even if you're not, you know that you have the tools to get back to being okay. All right, we got a question here. So what would you all say to women who are struggling to hold to the hardness and carrying everything themselves? So somebody's asking for advice. What would you say to women that are struggling? And girl, I just told you I struggled for years. They're struggling and remain staying in that hardness. How do you get to a point of being soft? Because like I said, I've just been soft for 6 months. I cry a lot now. So how did you ladies get to a point of being soft after struggling for so long to be that strong person and appear as that person? Yes, LaToya.
Well, sometimes I don't want to be a boy all the time. Sometimes I'm a boy. I'm a boy. So what I mean by that is we as women, we balancing our masculine and feminine energy. So all my life, I dominate in my masculine energy for a number of reasons. Number one, I grew up in a single parent home. You know, I'm in banking, white male dominated industry, right? I'm in HR. So I got all these things. So I dominate in all of my work experience. I had to be strong, dominant, confident. But baby, listen, some of us strong women know that sometimes that's tiring. There's days I want to be in my feminine energy, which is the softness. And see, that's another thing. We give these terms weight, right? Oh, if you're feminine, you soft. Yeah, it is soft, but that don't mean I'm weak now. Don't get it twisted. The feminine energy is the being side. It's the receiving side. It is the delicate side. So you got to be able to balance both of them, especially if you're in a relationship, right? You got to be able to balance your masculine and feminine energy. And that's what I had to learn early on. And there is times where I need to be in my masculine energy. I need to be the doing. I do need to be the giving, the competitive, the survival, and all those things. So you just got to figure out, when do you integrate those energies? Because there's times you're going to need to be in your dominant masculine energy. And then there's going to be some times when you put on them feminine wiles and you bat your eyes and you get what you want, baby. So you got to learn you got to learn when to balance those things, right? And I think that you don't have to put on this air, I got to be hard. Like I said, the older I got, the softer I got, the more emotional I got. You couldn't pay me to cry in my 20s. I don't care who hurt me physically or mentally, emotionally. You couldn't pay me to cry. That goes back to that vulnerability, because I didn't see my mother cry. She was strong. So that means suck it up. Don't you let a tear fall. And I'm learning that, no, that doesn't serve me. If I'm emotional, I can sit with this. 2 weeks ago, I had COVID. I'm quarantined in my damn bedroom for 5 days. I had to sit with myself. I cried for 5 days because some of those days I was running and trying to do so much for everything. And sometimes, baby, you got to just sit in it and you got to process it and you got to feel it. Stop running from it. And you got to feel it, you got to sit it, and that's where the healing comes place. That's when the answers start coming up. And sometimes healing don't always feel good, even when you ask for it, but it be right on time. And then you begin to learn some things about yourself. And then again, you can learn when I need to be in my masculine energy, when I need to be hard, or when I need to pull back, be in my feminine energy, and be allowed to receive what it is that I need. So it's about to have those integrated parts. That's how I would respond to the question.
Did anybody else have a response?
For me, it's more so, I totally agree with LaToya. For me, I'm all about authenticity. So it's not so much for me hard and soft or cry or suck it up. For me, it's, how do I want to respond? What is my innate reaction to this? And am I stopping that reaction? And if I'm stopping it, why? Like, let me address to myself this feeling of why I feel like I'm suppressing right now, and keep going down the whys until I get to the root of it, and then work from there. Because I always want to be authentic. And for the longest time, I couldn't be. So I try to honor my feelings. I try to honor my reactions to things as authentically as possible.
I think that's a big thing, transparency and being authentically who you're supposed to be. Because if you can't be emotional with yourself, if you can't address your issues, how are you authentic with yourself? And then how are you authentic with other people if you can't be who you truly are? Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to add, Nicole?
I did. I just wanted to say also, find a safe space. And that looks different for everybody. You know, initially your safe space may be just your journal. Because you could tell your journal whatever you want to tell it, how you want to tell it, and nobody's going to judge your feelings. But it gives you an opportunity to release whatever it is you're holding. As you're building, as you're learning, and as you're, going through all the steps, it gives you that space to just release. Because if you deal with it all today, you go to bed, you wake up, now you got yesterday and today that you're trying to deal with. Where is that space? What does that space look like for you? It's different for everybody. It could be your journal, it could be a sister, a friend, somebody that you can trust, it can be counseling. Where is that? Where is your safe space that you're able to deal with all those things, no matter how ugly it is, no matter how pretty or hard it is, but you have this space that belongs to you. And as you release it, however you choose to, now it's like you're going to take on more things, but it's like it's not piling up. Like you're getting rid of some of the pile. And as you journal and go back and read it, you can kind of look at, okay, what was I dealing with? And kind of talk those things through. Journaling has been a lifesaver for me.
So I have another question for you ladies. How has dealing with the mental trauma of your past impacted how you deal with your mental right now in relationships that you're in? Now, I'm talking about relationships with a significant other, with your family, with your friends, because honestly, no matter what type of relationship you're in, once your mental health is impacted, it plays out in almost every other relationship you have. How are you guys dealing with that?
I'll just say briefly, when you start doing the work and things start happening for you and evolving, one of the things I recommend is that you have to, or hopefully you choose to retrain the people who won't be in your life and be okay with those people who fall away. Because I idolize someone in my family. Let me just be honest, because we sister friends. I no longer talk to my biological sister. It hurts like hell. She's 10 years older than I am. She was my idol. I idolized everything about her. However, we're no longer talking. And part of it is because we were 10 years apart, she always treated me like a little girl. Like I didn't have thoughts, feelings. I got to do it her way. I don't care about you. You the little sister. And as you get older, that's damaging. And so I encourage people to start teaching people and retraining people. The person you used to know is no longer. This is who I am today. And I am going to honor myself, and I'm going to honor my boundaries. And if we can't respect one another, then we can no longer be in a relationship. And I know my mother, my grandma is so upset with us that we're no longer talking. And trust me, I'm a forgiving person. I would love to have a relationship with her, but it takes two. And so again, I honor myself. And again, I tell people, as you are evolving, as you're growing, you got to retrain people to teach them how to treat you and to honor your boundaries. First of all, yourself, so that you can show people how to honor your boundaries. And so therefore, that's important, because if you continue to let people in your life treating you any kind of way, then, it's going to continue to mess with your psyche. So if you are about mental wellness, if things do not contribute to that wellness or align with that wellness, you got to let it go. As bad as it may hurt you, you got to let it go.
Maria, did you want to add something?
Yeah. So I think that to further paint the picture for y'all, I got to keep going back to my 17-year-old me. This relationship, or what I thought was a relationship, it was with a really powerful person. And remember, I didn't think that while going through this, it was something that I needed to heal from. So a lot of triggers that I have today come from 17-year-old Abria. And I have to really thank God and really give gratitude to my partner today that's willing to listen and to provide space to be understanding, and to not, allow that to make him upset. But I didn't start the healing until probably a year ago. So as soft as I am, as 26-year-old Abria, I would cry and not really know why I was crying, or I would get triggered by things and didn't really understand. I didn't know that it was a trigger. I just knew that I felt upset, I felt sad, and I wanted to get it out. I wanted to, acknowledge it and let it flow through me, but I didn't really know what I was acknowledging, if that makes sense. Because I didn't think that this was something that I needed to heal from. there were a lot of different emotions when this relationship started. It was different. It was more of like a mentorship sort of thing. And as time evolved, like that relationship evolved. So you can tell just from knowing what a mentor is to a mentee, those feelings, it's strange, it's confusing. And I think I didn't know how to handle that. And as I got older into the relationship that I'm in now, the things that trigger me, like it'll maybe seem like it's nothing to my partner, which is why it's so important for us to do the work and go through healing. Again, I'm really, really thankful, but those triggers are really big triggers. And again, like I really stress the going to therapy, like Miss Latoya said, and getting help, because it doesn't feel good to not feel good. Like it doesn't feel good to always sit in it, and be confused about your feelings, and you don't know why you upset, and you don't have a safe space to talk to about it. So again, I'm thankful for the partner that I have today. And those triggers, they were hard. It was hard to deal with that. It was hard to sit with that. It was hard to forgive myself for that, to acknowledge those inner feelings. It was hard. It was hard work.
No, Bria, I want to thank you because that was a whole word. I mean, if you guys have teenage daughters or daughters in their 20s and stuff like that, like she is giving you the playbook to start having the conversations with them, because some of us, because we haven't addressed our own mental issues and the things that we don't address our own sadness, our anger, and our anxiety, we're not able to have the conversation. So she's giving you part of the playbook. It's time for you to figure that conversation out. But someone in the comments mentioned, she said that her confidence was mistaken as aggressiveness. And I think you can say the same thing, like when you tell people you're sad, like I'm just sad about it. Like, I'm saying, like, why are you so mad? I didn't say I was mad. I said I was sad. And so we get to a point where it's like, I don't even want to express how I'm feeling to another person, because you're going to take it as, you're going to own it as something you want me to be. And I'm telling you how I am. How do you guys deal with that? Because I know a lot of women who are actively expressing to their partners, to their family, to their friends, to their sister girls, like, this is how I'm feeling, yet the emotions are being flipped. How do you guys, what advice would you give on handling that? Because for me, I'm like, I ain't gonna lie to you, I'll shut down in a heartbeat. Like, I'm not about to deal with you. I'm telling you directly, like, I'm sad. I'm not mad, but now I'm getting mad because you didn't call me out. And I'm just telling you, like, I'm sad and I can't figure it out. How are you guys handling that?
That's a good one. I think part of the journey in relationships is knowing who you are in relationships with. How often are we going to continue talking to the person that flip our words and not hear, truly what we're saying? Then you got to ask yourself, is this somebody I need to be talking to? You got to question the connection, evaluate the relationship, because I should be able to come to you and talk, and we should be able to work out how I feel, or, are you hearing what I'm saying, or are you just hearing what you want to hear so we can just move on with whatever we need to move on with? So I think you have to evaluate all the sisterhoods, thinking about Valencia's book, how every sister in your circle plays a role. And are we trying to force certain roles on certain people? Because one person is not going to fulfill all of our relationship needs, whether, it's the sister that, I know I can't tell this sister that, you know what I mean? Like, I just think you have to evaluate, because every time you go to someone, it shouldn't turn into a debate or me trying to really ABCD, this is how I feel. And then you get off the phone and you should never still feel the same way. So for me, I'm looking at the relationship, like, is this somebody I should be telling her, this piece is kind of like when you think about, when people talk about marriage friends and single friends, my single friends don't have me out in the streets. You know what I mean? So you got to look like, it's like looking at those relationships and knowing who is what and who's not, and being okay with it.
And I think
Yeah.
the greatest things, I'm gonna mention something that LaToya and I learned in class, is I think they told us who sits at your board of directors. And it was the board of directors was the people that you can trust with your intimate, are you comfortable enough? And I think they gave us this big chart. And we had 15 people, and then you narrowed those 15 people down to 10, then you narrowed those people down to 5. And it was like, at one point I was like, oh my God, who do I trust with the most intimate parts of who do I trust enough to invite them to a table to discuss me with me? And I think you need to investigate and evaluate, like, are you really in these friendships because I can really trust you to be my most transparent and authentic self, or it's because we hang out, because we can hang out and have a good time. I got friends that I party with, that I kick it with, that I work out with, that I talk book shop with. I got friends that I do all of that with, but then I have people who, if I'm sitting at the table and I'm telling you I'm emotionally vomiting everything, that you are there and you are of a support. But if you're not of a support, honey, I am not afraid to dismiss you from the board of directors. The board of directors can change up at any moment. You had something to add, LaToya?
No, I mean, you're spot on, especially what Nicole said. When you think about, especially as you get older and more seasoned, like some of us, your circle gets very, very small. And I will tell you, I have a good girlfriend who is besides my therapist, I told you she wanted to die. She knows way too much. And the other person, but anyway, but my vulnerability partner, my mirror, when I am on 110, I'm lucky if you buck with, I say, hey, I need to talk. So before I give my power away, I need you to talk me down. And I think sometimes having some self-talk, when you are with your beloved or you with whoever you're in a relationship with, even if it's a friendship system or whatever, when you know you on 110, you got to have that self-regulation to say, you know what? I'm severely charged. And is there an opportunity that maybe we can table this? Because I want to be able to hear you and I want you to be able to hear me. Plus, I don't want to beat you up. But anyway, with that being said, sometimes you got to learn self-control, right? Because you know how you are. And then just dial back because you may be having a moment. Listen, I'm 48. I'm going through all these hormonal changes. I'm between killing somebody, crying, beating somebody up, all at the same, and praying for them all at the same damn time. I have these hormonal issues going on. So sometimes I just need to talk to my vulnerability partner and just say, hey, am I overreacting? Am I thinking too much? How would you handle this situation? Because you want to make sure you're not hurting relationships, right? Because some of us, we can cut some folks up with our tongues, baby. You know what I'm saying? We can do it. Don't try. Don't come for me and I ain't ask for you, right? And so you want to make sure that you're not hurting relationships. You want to make sure that there's some clear communication, but it's all about self-regulation, especially with your beloved. Hey, this is not a good time. I'm feeling charged. You feeling charged. Can we table this? Not to say don't talk about it, because we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe let's not talk about it right now when we both are so charged right now. Let's table it, right? If you have to write a note so you can go back to it and say, you know what, baby, I overreacted on this. Or, hey, you know what, when you said this, I feel this way, and you own your stuff. And so it's important to do that. And I understand we're going through a lot, all of us, things on our jobs and everything. And sometimes you don't need some of those things, right? So self-control, self-awareness, self-regulation is first, but have somebody where you can have a safe landing that knows you to the white meat, who won't judge you, who won't assess you, who will tell you, yeah, you ain't all that in a bag of chips, and yeah, girl, you rocking whatever, and yes, you spot on with that, and can help you calm down and be able to think it through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to take the opportunity, because this conversation is so amazing, but I want to flip the reckless love conversation, because we've talked about the spaces of where relationships are going wrong, like left, and what happens like that. But there is another aspect to being recklessly loved. And that is why I invited my good friend Nicole on, because let me tell you, to witness a love story where somebody loves you unconditionally, deeply, and they are moving because you're moving and you're in tandem with that person has got to be an amazing thing. And I shared with the ladies, like when my dad got sick and, he was so worried about us, like, okay, I have to make sure you guys feel loved. And I'm like, you're the sick one. But if you know me, I am a daddy's girl through and through. And my dad loves me with such a deep compassion that I just have an understanding of reckless in love is not just a spot where I'm hurting, but it can also be a spot where I'm healing and I'm enjoying love. So Nicole, would you mind sharing your reckless love story with us?
So, and I'm not gonna cry. But on December 19th, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was the hardest news that I've ever had to receive. I was at work the previous week. I had the mammogram, the ultrasound. They told me there was a lump. They got to do a biopsy. And, my doctor told me, she was like, as soon as I have the results, I'm going to call you. And, but I work for the hospital. So I'm like, I'm probably going to get it before you and I'm going to call you. But anyway, I was at work and I went to work Monday morning and I checked the system. It wasn't there. And then I checked again. And then around lunchtime, I said, okay, I'm going to check one more time. And if it's not there, I'm going to just leave it alone till she called me. And the results were there. And I sat there and I looked at it. I opened it up. I saw a word that I very clearly knew what that meant, but it was so much jargon. And I'm like, okay, what does this mean? And my doctor that I worked for was there with me. And I said, what does this mean? I was so anxious, and he looked at it. He was like, is this your stuff? And I said, yeah. And he just hugged me and said, I'm sorry. So I completely lost it, packed up. And I couldn't call my husband till I got outside because I knew nothing that came out of my mouth was going to be clear. But I got outside, I was crying hysterically, and I called him and I told him, and he like, I'm about to come get you. And I'm like, no, I can drive home. And when I got home, y'all, we will be married 7 years in August. And I walked in the door and he was sitting in a chair waiting for me. And that was the most vulnerable moment I have ever had with that man in 7 years. Oh, he's seen me cry. He's seen, all the sides of Nicole. But that moment, I had nothing. I gave him everything I had. My tribe has been absolutely amazing. And when you talk about, relationship, one of the things my husband always says to me, because this is both of our second marriages, he was like, we know how to get it wrong. We've done that. We've mastered the wrong. Let's get this right. And he says that a lot, like if we arguing or whatever, or he's ready to talk right away. I'm not. And he always said that to me. But I've seen relationships where women are sick and they have to deal with things on their own and go through things alone. He has been like so amazing, like absolutely amazing. Like the community that has surrounded me has been absolutely amazing. And, people often tell me, Nicole, you're going to get back what you put out. And I get it. And I'm like, there's no way I ever put out this much to be receiving all of this back. But it takes me back to part of our previous conversation when we talk about the people you surround yourself with. I've had to, get rid of some negative people in my life. And I think now, like, wow, what if they were sitting right in front of me? What would it look like for me? And I tell people, I had a young lady tell me, she was like, Nicole, everybody's rallying around you right now. They're not going to be there always. I said, listen, I don't know who you had, but God has given me soldiers, known and unknown, that I don't believe that. They not leaving my side. Y'all, I've been trying to have a pity party since Monday. I mean, a pity party. Treatment is coming up this Monday and I'm already anxious. I know what my week is going to be like. And I text people that's probably on this Zoom right now, and I'll say, you know, I'm feeling anxious. I don't want to go back. I'm going to call my doctor and say, can we just skip this? Because this Monday is the last of the aggressive treatment. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. I don't want the nurse to greet me with a smile. Like those are like I've been trying to have this pity party all week, and not one person from my tribe has allowed me to, from the phone calls, the text. You know, my sister be like, well, go take you a nap. And you know, we'll talk about it later. They allow me to feel, and I think that was something we talked about as well. I don't have to sugarcoat how I feel. I can say to them, like, I don't want to go. I know Tuesday night with the rest of the week is going to be like, and I don't want to go. And they like, well, think about it like this. This is the last of the aggressive. I don't, that's not my perspective. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it is the last. I don't want to go. Well, let's think about it. I mean, they will not let me have a pity party. I have been trying since Monday, and today is Thursday. But it goes back to those, you know, relationships. Who's at your table? Who's at the boardroom? Who in the board? And everybody cannot come in. And you know, when people tell me like, you know, God knew this was coming, you might not have known it was coming, but he did. And in that process, he's removed people that couldn't be with me now. I get gifts from people I know and from people I don't know. I'm like, who sent this package? And I'm grateful. I'm thankful. But I know I don't have I got all of this because of the work I had to put in. It didn't, all this husband love didn't just fall in my lap. You know, no previous ex could have ever put some clippers to my head, ever. I would have been at the hairdresser in the back room and nobody would have ever saw this bald head. But one of the things I said to him when, you know, we got to the point where it just like, okay, babe, you got to cut it. And I sat there and cried and I was just like, you know, I always want to be beautiful for you. I want you to always look at me as this person. And he was like, babe, hence the shirt. I just need you bald and breathing. I need you bald and breathing. And I said, well, I got breath and I'm certainly bald. So, you know, they don't let me give up. So when as you think about your relationships you're in, yeah, you can't just call all the people tonight and be like, look, it's over. I'm not your friend. Like, you can't do that. Everything is a process. But the only person that can figure out what's best for you initially is you. If you can't, you know, when it was funny, I made the shirt and I was like, I'm gonna wear this on the Zoom, but I ain't gonna show my bald head. I'm gonna put my scarf on. I'm gonna represent the bald, but you're not gonna see it. And in my, you know, rush to getting dressed, I forgot to put my scarf on. Remember, I got on the Zoom like, oh my God, I forgot to put my scarf on. But at that point, I'm like, okay, now Nicole, just, you know. So I'm transparent because as people poured into me, like y'all see me smiling on Facebook, that smile wasn't there, you know, easily. My tribe had to talk me down. They had to talk me out of sinking into a hole. But I know that my testimony is not just going to speak to me, it's going to speak to the people that's at the table with me. And it's going to be a testament for other people that's struggling in relationships. Because, you know, yeah, I'm feeling all the love now. Would I have this same love 10 years ago? I don't know. I don't know what that may have looked like. But, you know, even when I ask God, you know, we all pray about our relationships, right? Just like Valencia said, he giving you the sign and you just like, oh, that really ain't the sign. You really want me to still keep working in this space. And that's why it's important to have that safe space, whatever your safe space looks like. it was one time I ain't had nobody I can talk to. And it was one time I can only have one person I can talk to. Now it's like, well, who should I call? Maybe I should call them all on three-way, because that's how connected I am with my tribe. And I feel like they're connected with me like that. So this getting to this space wasn't easy. I've lost relationships, gained relationships, you know what I mean? So, but I'm thankful and grateful that here now at 50 years old, being diagnosed with breast cancer, my treatment won't end until the end of May. I then have to have surgery. I then have to have radiation. I know what my 2023 is looking like, and I don't want to deal with none of it. But the fact that I know I don't have to deal with it alone. But my husband has been like so amazing. Like, I can't even put into words. He waits on me hand and foot. What you need? I probably got a text in my phone because he's not here. You good? I'm sure I do. You know what I mean? And the morning text, the daily text. People text me like, good morning, gorgeous. I'll be like, oh, man. You know, but it feels good because it's genuine. And the love I feel, we all can feel. Now, are all my friendships perfect? Absolutely not. Is my marriage perfect? Absolutely not. But it's worth, everything I have is worth everything I put into it and what I get back. And that's where it's important not to give our dead energy, trying to keep these dead relationships breathing. Let them go. And sometimes when they go, we go back and pick them up. Because we feel like, let them go. We have to evaluate those circles and determine how do I need to move in these? You ain't got to answer the phone every time they call you. You ain't got to pick it up. You know you don't want to talk to her. Why you keep answering the phone? And then we mad at ourselves because we didn't get the opportunity to speak or to talk or to pour or to vent. Who we got to blame for that? Ourselves. People don't answer our call every time we call. So, but yeah, just to, from where I came to where I can only thank God for everything. Everything, every person, and your journeys, share with people, what you shared today, because somebody outside of this webinar needs to see, needs to hear. I'm working on me. Even if it's just, I'm working on me. Because some people just going through the motions and don't even know that they're having mental health issues. So, but that's my story. I hope, something I've inspired you guys with.
Thank you so much. I was so excited for you to do, because people, when we think about reckless love, we think instantly about all the bad things that happen. But somebody can love you recklessly because of what it means. It's the action of what you're doing in that loving situation. So I have one more question before we wrap up, because we are coming to the end. I'm so sorry. One more question, then I want the ladies to give you their information. What would you all tell your younger self now that you've been through your reckless love situation and you come out and you've gained some tools to help you get to the other side? I want you to tell briefly what you would tell your younger self, and then tell the people how they can connect with you. Abria, we're gonna go ahead and start with you.
Okay, I apologize in advance, y'all. I told y'all I was soft, so I'm a little emotional. I won't make this real long, but I had to do this activity in therapy, and I couldn't believe how it had me. I couldn't believe how emotional it had me. But I really feel like 17-year-old Abria really fought for the love that I have now. I think that daddy issues, I think that they're real. And I think that we fight to want to feel loved and to want to be protected. And I wanted that as a girl. And I thought that I had found that protection in someone that I trusted. And if I could go back and tell my younger self, even though it hurts because I feel like I pride myself in my vulnerability, but don't trust everybody. Everybody that says that they want to be here for you and they want to support you and guide you to success is not always what it is. Be mindful and pour that love that you want to put into everybody else, pour that into you. And just love on yourself. Figure out what that looks like and what that feels like. Remember when I was 17, nobody was in school talking about mental health. Like they would maybe ask how you doing, like you said, Latoya, but nobody would really be honest and say how they felt. And I didn't really have the space to say how a lot of things made me feel. So maybe that's why I might overshare, or I might really let you know how I'm feeling. But I would really tell my 16, 17-year-old self to be careful, not to trust everybody and be really mindful, you know, and that real protection and that love starts with yourself and building that relationship with God, to have the discernment to recognize who really loves you, and who's in your life to protect you and play that role.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nicole.
I would tell my younger self not to lose my voice. And I know sometimes when we hear that, we think, oh, I just got to go out and tell everybody how I feel and what about them and blah, blah, blah. And it's not the case, but not to lose your voice, whether it's with people that you love, or that sacred space that you have. What is your voice? What is your voice saying? Because we don't have to sit back and just eat everything somebody feeds us. We don't. We don't have to take what everybody gives us. We can say no. We don't have to do it because they asked, or they asked and they want us to stop everything and do it now. We don't have to do those things. We don't have to alter our lives for other people when it's not a good time. So I would say to my younger self to, don't lose your voice and have some say in what goes on with you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Valencia.
I would say to my younger self, number one, don't lose yourself. I feel like I did a lot of altering who I was and what I wanted, giving up dreams and goals in order to sustain a relationship that was not good for me. And while in relationships, there has to be give and take, obviously, I should not sacrifice all of who I am. Don't forget who you are. If the children are not there, if the husband is not there, if the friends are not there, what do I have? All I have is me. So I need to know me intimately. What do I like? Who do I like? Those type of things. I will also encourage myself to stay authentic, stay true to who I am, and be authentic in who I am. I believe that authenticity draws the correct people to you, your tribe, love relationships, even right down to, where you work. I believe that authenticity attracts the right people. So stay authentic and don't lose yourself. And whatever I desire and expect out of a relationship, no matter if it's relationship or friendship, the traits that I expect from those other people, I have to first be able to give them to myself, which means I have to know me on a very intimate level. I need to be able to give myself the love that I need from somebody else, the grace that I need, the joy that I need, all those things I need to first be able to do for myself.
All right, Ms. Latoya.
All right, thank you. So once again, thank you so much for allowing me to be on the panel today. Thank you for blessing me with these wonderful ladies. Ditto what everybody said. And the last thing I'll just say is have a relationship with God and have a relationship first with yourself, and to love yourself unconditionally. All of you, all that shows up physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of it. Love yourself without conditions first and have that connection with self. I'm the connection coach, so call a sister if you need something.
I just want to take the time to thank everyone on this panel, thank all of the attendees. This was truly, I am in awe of the experience here. This was a dream of mine. I think I thought of and going through the program with Latoya that I knew I wanted to see this come to fruition. And so for you guys to be participating, I am grateful. I know what I would tell my younger self. Show out, Nick. Show out, show your emotions, show who you are, be transparent, be authentic, tell the truth, be who God created you to be, because that's the person you're gonna need, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, no matter how many relationships come and go, you're gonna need to show up as you. And people are gonna appreciate the fact that you show up as you. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Just show up and be authentically who God created you to be. And so I hope you guys got that through this message this evening. Please go to the site. All of their information is updated on the JustOneHotMom.com website under the Reckless Love banner. I hope that you guys continue to have an amazing evening and open up these conversations so that you can create spaces for women to be safe and to talk about their mental health and their wellness journey. I love you guys. Have an amazing evening. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Good night.
Oh, this will be available on YouTube and the podcast. So if you want to go back, play it back and send it to your friends because they need help too. It will be available too. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I'll talk to you soon.
Good night.